Hey, happy Thursday, everyone. My name is Pete Zendzian, the president of ZZ Servers. And today I'm super excited to introduce you to Topher.
Hi.
And Topher is the newest member of our team, and he comes to us from a whole different world besides cybersecurity. And some of you might have already met him or had him call you. Topher is our new, I don't want to use sales development representative because that's too cheesy, but more, I would say he's more, what are you? What are you?
I am the guy who's going to tell you about ZZ servers and cybersecurity. If you've heard me on the phone, I'm the person you've spoke to. If you've maybe seen us at some events, I might be the person that you've seen, either me or Pete, and that's who I am.
Cool. You've been working, actually, we've known each other for a long time, haven't we?
We have.
Probably
We've known each other for a long time.
10 years at least, I think. Almost as long as maybe in us. But so you've worked in all kinds of industries, and they're so different from what you've experienced working with us. And we've talked about this quite a bit. And you've worked in construction, you've worked in Vegas doing cold calling, you've worked all kinds of sales jobs. You've been all over the place. And what's the one big thing you've learned working with a cybersecurity company that you didn't experience before?
Well, cybersecurity is anyone who's watching this probably knows, is unique. It's understand it. When I worked in construction, one difference was if your pipe was leaking or your outlet didn't work, you were well aware of it. Or if your door was broken into, you were well aware because the lock was broken. Where in cybersecurity, it seems that people have all of these problems, but they're either not aware of it or they don't think it's a big deal. Which the equivalent, of course, would be if your pipes are leaking upstairs, your house is about flood. And we wouldn't take that in a nonchalant way. The nonchalant way people think of their cybersecurity and how it's not important was shocking.
So are you saying so you're seeing other business owners, you're talking to other people, and you're seeing that they're not taking cybersecurity as seriously as you do now, is what you're saying?
Serious, yeah.
So what made you think of cybersecurity in a different way now that you're working in a cybersecurity company for the first time? What made you change your mind of how important it is?
Just like any sales position, you have to know your product.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to learn about the product of cybersecurity, a whole other world opens up because it's a unique product in itself. And when you go to learn about it, you start to see how many attacks there are a year, what they cost. I have a friend who sells physical security. She sells locks, cameras, and things like that. And a cheap lock will protect $6,000 worth of things where companies have millions of dollars to protect. And the cheap or even no lock or the doors that when you look into an industry to sell it, you start to see the niches and the nuances of it. And I completely lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I think I know where you're going with this. So what you're saying is, it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're talking about the analogy of locks.
Right.
Where locks were, hey, they're physical. You can see it. You can see if somebody cuts it. Where in cybersecurity, you're not seeing the water leak on your floor. You're not seeing the bad things happening.
Not only are the bad things happening, but they're happening to every house on the block. Imagine if in your neighborhood where you live, 9 out of 10 homes didn't have a front door. Where do you think, would people be surprised if they got robbed? No. But in this industry, that they are. And when it comes to sales, I've also when you make that apparent, not only do people want your service if it's good, but they desperately need it. Because if they have cybersecurity, then the person will just move to the next open door. Because there's so many open doors.
There really are. I know that since we started working together, you've talked about all these hacks and cybersecurity things that
I've been reading. And
what's the most, say, exciting one or scariest one that you've read about in the last few weeks?
the scariest one would probably be the one that just happened in the last few weeks, which would be MGM,
Okay.
a giant corporation that not only were they hacked, but completely exposed that their cybersecurity wasn't adequate to begin with.
Right.
Then the methods were exposed, and that hack. I know I've been in Las Vegas on vacation.
Sure.
We have an MGM here in Virginia. We have two.
Oh, yeah.
And if you ever get a chance to go to DC, it's a beautiful property, but don't use your credit card. and it'll be fine.
Why would you use your credit card with them?
The thing is, and this is another thing that's happening, is your credit card got stolen by MGM. Had your credit card information.
Mhm.
It got stolen from MGM. You're liable for it. The amount of responsibility on a person to protect their information once it's given to an industry, that it doesn't make any sense. A lot of these things don't make any sense once you start the regulations
Right.
versus the risk and what can happen to you. I think if we polled everyone out and said, how many of us have been a victim of a phishing email? How many of us, if we looked at our email right now, would have 5 or 6 phishing emails? But we've gotten to the point where we nonchalantly think of it like it's supposed to happen, like it's an everyday thing. Where if it was in the real world, and I said, Pete, what's your mom's social security number?
Actually, not gonna be.
Yeah.
Simple number.
If I just sat down next to you, we would never do that. And they came back with another person.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, I'm your doctor. Date of birth, Pete. And you're like, what? No way. And that could come back as somebody else. That would, in the real world, you'd be arrested for fraud or something like that. So I think that when it comes to this industry and especially from the sales, correlation between the real world and your computer and your cell phone and technology used every day, your thermostat to your remote control, is not only vulnerable, but actively being hunted.
Yeah.
I had a Swiffer, and we wondered why. This was about 3 years ago. I was with Mandy. I brought it to Mandy. She looks at it. It goes to a Chinese server. Why does my Swiffer have to?
I don't know.
Mandy, why does my Swiffer have to go to the Chinese server? She doesn't know either.
Yeah.
So no one knows. And so to a Chinese server, probably your baby monitor. It's scary. Your cameras and things like that. And that's another thing. You come off as a fear monger if you tell them everything that's happening. It's like, you're not going to let you know this, but
Which brings up a point. Every week I've talked about something in the news, and today I'm asked you to do it because you've read about it. I didn't read it enough about this one, and we talked about it this morning. The SolarWinds attack. How much have you read about that one?
enough to know that was preventable, and it was a good example of company negligence. And companies that don't pay a price for negligence either. When I was in the construction business,
yeah.
If we worked on your home, we would have a couple different warranties.
Yeah.
One of them was a workmanship warranty. And that warranty would basically guarantee that the work was done to industry standard.
Right.
And if something happened to your home because of the work we did, we would be liable.
Right.
If I give you my information, there's my liability, my children's schools, whatever, my most important information has been given to you, and there's no liability on you. Company neglect was highlighted in SolarWinds.
Okay.
And also the length of the attack, how long it happened. If we get our homes robbed, or if you've been mugged or stuff, that attack happens, they take what you have on you now. It is over. But they were there for 3 years. For 3 years, they had it back.
It's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, for 5 years, they were told by the biggest professionals and the most trusted professionals in the industry the problem. But if you're not liable for neglect, why would I do anything?
Yeah.
But that's changing.
It is. And there's one thing about the SolarWinds case that I've seen is there's actually criminal charges being filed on this one. This is a big case happening.
Yeah, there's criminal charges at MGM being filed.
Yeah, absolutely.
MGM lost 80 million.
I love watching you as you work with us, because when you first started working with us, you thought all this cybersecurity stuff, you thought you had to be an expert. And every time we sat and talked, what was the one thing I told you?
You don't have to know this.
We got the first, like Mandy over here, who's actually running our camera today, so thank you, Mandy. So there's experts doing this, and you're the expert at talking to people, so that's where you're at. And you have dived in and learned all these cybersecurity things, which is great.
Right.
And when you're out there doing outreach to the local area and helping bring folks to our training sessions, you were able to help people understand why we're doing it.
Yeah, and it's been easy because you get passionate about it, because since we work with local small businesses, it's our niche, and we are a local small business, then these are places I go, you go.
Yeah.
If somebody puts a skimmer at the food line on Battlefield and Volvo, that's going to affect me personally.
Yeah.
Because food line and Harris Teeter, but it's going to affect me personally.
Yeah.
And that leads to a sense of urgency, because these are our friends, and these are in some cases, our family. These are just people we work with.
Yep.
And if somebody, once again, to use the analogy, if somebody came in your neighborhood and was threatening your friends or your family, you would tell someone about it. Yep. And that's what we do. What drew me to ZZ Servers was the small size of the company, because experts, there's not a lot of us in our field. There's not. And so when you have experts in each section that you can depend on,
right,
it's more secure. Just like everything correlates to being small and tight. We pass information to each other. We don't have to go through 20 people. There's no water cooler conversation in this street. If one of our clients have a problem like they did the other week, poor Pete misses a meeting, says he's up till 3 a.m. Mandy, she never believes anything. She's looking at it. Sure enough, she gets the call at 3 a.m. One thing I love about us is when you make the call to ZZ Servers, whether it's 3 in the morning, 3 p.m., you get Pete, you get Mandy, you get someone local who can be right there with you any time of day and expect to be. And that's comfort. A business needs, especially cybersecurity, is a thing that's not tangible. It's a hard thing to convince people they need. Right. So when they automatically feel comfort, which is what you should be giving, comfort, they should feel comfortable on that computer, or when they go to work, they shouldn't have to worry about their email second. It doesn't even exist.
Yep.
Because you're there.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Awesome. Hey, I really appreciate you sharing those things. And I know you've talked to so many people in the last few weeks. We've been working really hard to reach out to the local businesses. And every day we're reaching out and doing everything we can to pull in other folks to teach them how to learn about their business. My main goal was not to try to sell our services to other folks. We want to just teach how important it is to protect your business, because every business is a nest egg for the future.
Yeah, and that led me to leave. Not every client is a fit for every business. And just like we don't have certain fits. But I do tell people, if we're not a fit, find an IT person, take a class, do something to protect your everyday use. The horror stories in the lives that have been ruined over lack of cybersecurity is astonishing, but it's also preventable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And fire safety in class. I do feel like in the next decade, you're going to see cybersecurity awareness maybe even taught in schools, because
that's really an interesting thing. I didn't think about schools, but yeah, in business we're doing it already. Now, I know you've had a lot of folks you talked to, and they've asked you lots of questions, and some of the ones are ones you don't necessarily know the answer to, partly because you don't work in the deep cybersecurity stuff. And now, some of these questions, I don't even know what you're going to ask me yet. So I'm not sure I'm going to know the answer. But then we got Mandy behind us, who's not on camera, who is our cybersecurity and compliance guru, who, if I don't know the answer, she'll find it, or we find it together. How about, let's go through a couple and see what we got here. So you've got some questions. So I'm going to share some of them.
Yeah, I do have some questions.
Okay.
When a company is thinking about the price of their cybersecurity, what factors in?
I look at are more at a managerial financial level to what it is. The average company earns about $250,000 a year per employee. And they spend
Don't tell too many employees that.
Well, it costs money to run a business. It costs a lot of money to run a business.
We all feel undervalued now.
Yeah. And the average company is spending between I'll say 3 and 6% of their annual revenue on IT. So if we think of a 10-person company with those numbers, we're looking at about a $2.7 million revenue, and between $6,000 and $10,000 a month in technology costs.
IBM put out a study that said the average cyber attack cost the average company over $40 million.
Yep.
And apples to oranges there.
Yep.
Definitely a dime, it's about $1 when you compare those numbers.
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest things that's come from that, and I talk this wherever I can, is things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
And the story of how things have changed, I'm not going to cover the whole thing here today, but they've changed to the point where cybersecurity insurance is now mandating that we perform certain security and compliance activities to prove that we're protecting our technology environments. And they put it in the application for when a company applies the insurance, and they'll give them the insurance if they don't do this stuff. Because, hey, they're in the business of selling insurance. What business owners are finding out is their nest egg is not protected after they've been breached.
So if I buy car insurance, it doesn't stop me from driving 100 miles an hour.
No.
But if I drive 100 miles,
There's some things that we help our clients with locally that we'll go through and review those insurance policies and make sure that they're meeting the minimum requirements so they can protect themselves at a bare minimum from a cyber attack, from the financial side of it. My main goal is to prevent that from happening in the first place. So there's a lot of people who think that the cost of prevention is more expensive than the cost of the cure. But last week I was at a big cybersecurity conference in Florida, and one of the things we talked about is we have ransomware attacks all the time, and companies are paying ransom to get their stuff back. And what's happening more and more is they're not getting their stuff back after they pay the ransom.
and MGM got hacked together. Caesars paid, MGM didn't.
Right. What's interesting is business owners are expecting, hoping, I don't know which, that the criminals who locked up their stuff, after the criminals get their money, they're doing business with criminals.
Yeah, that is real wishful thinking.
Yeah.
I think if we're to a point where we're depending on the kindness of criminals to give us what they've stolen, then we're pretty helpless.
Absolutely.
That's the thing, you're helpless. Just like in a lot of situations, unless you're knowledgeable and like self-defense, you're helpless if someone tries to attack you in the real world. But if you maybe take a couple karate classes, next thing you know, you're not so helpless. And without a qualified professional IT department, you're wasting your money. You're wasting your insurance money, the money that a lot of companies I speak to. One of the biggest things is my nephew's doing it. My nephew handles our IT, or my uncle or my niece, and I'm sure they're great. But your nephew and your niece, your insurance company's not going to like that. Can you tell don't you owe it to your customers to protect their most valuable asset to more than your nephew and your niece?
That's a really interesting way of putting it. And my goal was not for us to get into
I know, right?
It was more about I wanted to introduce you to the world that you're part of us and the excitement you've had over the last few months of working with, our clients and our team and getting to know everyone. So
I have another question.
Okay.
So you wrote 2 books.
I did.
Are you going to be writing any more books?
When I get another opportunity, I'm absolutely going to be writing. The first 2 were to businesses to teach them the importance of cybersecurity.
Mhm.
And the next one I'd like to write is a book or process that helps small business owners not only just understand the importance of cybersecurity, but give them some actionable steps that they can take to implement that cybersecurity for inexpensive, if not free. What we do is not cheap, but it doesn't mean that you can't do a few things to be ahead. And that's part of what we're doing these weekly live for us, to start building that book, get people's ideas, what they see, what they need, and help them with the details to teach them how to protect their business. You should bring that up. I don't always talk about my books.
Yeah.
But they are.
I had to skim a few.
Yeah.
You have to go with the experts. So I had to skim a few. And recommended reading if you want to go to sleep.
I don't know if you read one of my second book, but I did tell you in the first 2 paragraphs not to read it. And I don't know how many people actually listen to those instructions. That's how it is.
Right.
So we've been here for a bit, and Mandy says we've got 5 minutes left.
You have a
But we're
meeting
here
at
longer than
1:30.
we've been in any of our other discussions, and this has been really exciting. And I hope we can do this type of format more often
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
with you and other folks and even other business leaders, because there's so much about cybersecurity and technology that is just unknown and scary.
I would love for this podcast to be a vehicle for people's where they can comment maybe on the cybersecurity issues they're having, especially local people, time water, and let us know what do you need, because that's one thing about this business is everybody's unique. You don't go on the same website that I do. I don't do the same things on the computer that he does. Manny doesn't do the same things that Pete does. We all have different habits that we use our phones and our computers for, whether it be work, play, or school, and your kids have different habits. And each of those habits come with a unique challenge. And if you don't know every facet that you can be attacked, you're still going to be vulnerable, because guess what? There's another way.
Yeah.
There's another way.
Good point. I don't want to take too much of your guys' time today, other than I think I'm supposed to say things like no and like, the thing that might be here somewhere eventually. No, Mandy said no.
I
It
do.
might be. This is our first time without a teleprompter, going completely off script and just chatting. And it's been super fun. I really appreciate your time, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how we tell folks to find us, other than if you're interested in learning more about cybersecurity, just stop by our website, www.czservers.com. And that is the first place to start. There's a big blue button on the top of the page. If you click it, it takes right to my calendar, and you can sign up for a free cyber strategy session right there and find out how you are with it. And let's get started and see where you lie in protecting your business from the bad guys. So anyway, thanks so much, Chris. For Topher. Chris, I was wrong. I learned the other day the Topher actually is short for Christopher. So that's a new thing. I've known you for 10 years.
It's out.
I never knew that, Thanks so much, everyone, for coming by. And again, Pete Zendzian, President of CZ Servers, and Topher, our local outreach person.
Yep. So I'll talk to you soon, or maybe I'll see you soon. Good one.
Bye, everyone.